All
We have
right,
a problem.
we're live. Good morning, Alexandra.
Good
Uh,
morning, Eric.
I know it's
Happy
really
Friday.
early for you. It is what, 5 a.m.?
It's actually just after 6, and I can see the sun
Oh,
coming up over the horizon.
never mind then. All right. Welcome everybody. 10 viewers already. That's pretty cool. Sorry to disappoint you, Freeman. I didn't mean Gordon. I know the picture was a little bit misleading. But it's actually Alexandra Freeman, who is Gordon's sister from the northeast of the US. That's
Yes. Good
why.
morning. Sorry to disappoint everyone.
Yeah, it's nice and afternoon here. The sun has finally gotten away from my webcam, so I don't have like a weird shape on my face anymore. But you might end up because the sun will go up for you.
Yes.
So what we're actually doing here today is Alexandra told me that she wanted to learn Terraform. And I thought, what a nice way to maybe introduce some other people to Terraform as well. Could you maybe start off by telling us why you wanted to learn Terraform?
Yeah, sure. So, as part of my role as the technical community manager on the community and developer advocate team, technical community manager, technical project manager on the
I nearly
community.
had that correct. I had community project manager.
It's all good. As part of this team, I work, of course, very closely with our developer advocates and practitioners out in the wild. And so, as someone who does not come from a engineering background, I wanted to learn a little bit of Terraform so I could have more engaging conversations with my team and understand a little bit more about what everyone is doing, as well as have that information when I talk to our stakeholders within the organization. So the engineering teams, product management, etc. And I've been told by Erik that Terraform can help me in my job as well. So that's why I'm here today.
Well, yeah, that's because we actually found a Terraform provider for Asana, and she actually got really excited then. So uh, we'll take a look at that later. I think that's going to be the next step, and maybe we can even add a little bit to the Asana provider along the way, where we can maybe extend it a little bit because I believe it's pretty basic right now.
I hear
So,
with Terraform, the possibilities are endless.
well, yes, if you build it. All right. So to add another twist in this story, you just switched from your Linux laptop to a Mac. And so we're going to have to basically start the journey from scratch again for you to, well, build up your whole system. So I think that's where we're going to start today is by setting up your environment for Terraform, and maybe adding some other bits there to help like your developer workflow. Um,
Exactly.
but before we get our hands dirty, how much do you know of Terraform?
Um, I know it's infrastructure as code.
All right. Well, that's very correct. Do you know what the main difference is like between that and maybe other ways of doing it?
Like cloud formation.
Yeah, but CloudFormation you could see as Terraform or sorry, infrastructure as code as well. Like it basically the difference would be if you want to set up something, like for instance you in Asana, right? You want to create projects.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the UI and then you click through the buttons and then eventually you have your project with tasks in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you would do that as code, you would basically describe the project in code text, right? And then Terraform will then create that for you. So instead of having to go through the steps yourself, Terraform does all that in the background. And if you would change something, let's say the title of a project board or whatever, Terraform will actually update that and apply those changes for you, right? So you don't go to the edit button and work like that. So that is like the main difference between infrastructure as code and like how you maybe would do it traditionally. Um, Now, you are quite familiar with infrastructure now since you've been working with us for well, over a year.
Almost 2 years.
Is it almost 2 years?
Yeah, next
Oh,
in
wow.
2 months. Yeah,
Oh, same for me. Oh, time
I'm
flies.
just not far behind.
Yeah. So you're very familiar with creating things in the cloud and cloud providers and
Hmm.
that kind of infrastructure, right? And you know things like GitHub, which you can also manage with Terraform. Um, but we're gonna start out with something more locally, so you don't need credentials to work with and like difficult things. So today we're gonna be setting up the Docker provider.
Okay.
So you'll spin up a container on your machine, destroy it, change something, etc. Right? Now,
Yes.
the power of Terraform is those providers, right? Like you said, you could basically do anything with Terraform, and that is because it is built up of all these little plugins that'll handle the actions for you, right? So you write everything in the same language, and then Terraform will interpret that and then do the things in the background by calling APIs, right?
Right.
So I think we'll probably look at some other providers along the way, but we're gonna start simple. Shall we just jump in it maybe and get your machine set up? Because I think we have quite a lot to do.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right. So the experience you have with your Mac is this is the first time you've used the webcam on the Mac, the first time you've turned it on. Probably.
It is correct. Correct.
All right. So I think the first thing we need to do to be able to install a lot of other software is we're going to install Brew, because that's a
Okay.
nice and easy tool on the Mac to install, right? So homebrew OSX gonna Google it for you, all right? And I'm gonna pop it here so other people can see it. Make that a little bit bigger. So if you browse over to brew.sh,
Okay.
yeah, then scroll down slightly. There is a command line argument or command there, right?
Yes.
Now, since you're coming from Linux, you're fairly familiar with terminals, so we're going to use that, right? So if
Yes.
you hold down the Apple key
Yep.
and then the space bar, you should get a little pop-up, right?
Yes, I get a pop-up.
All right, so if you type terminal and then hit return, you have a
Yep.
terminal. Cool. All right. So then you want to paste in that command that install homebrew mentions,
All right, it is pasted in.
and then run it. All right.
Press return to continue or any other key to abort. Looks like we're good.
Yep. All right.
It has installed.
All right, cool. So that's the first step. Now we can use this to install further things, right? Now, since we're going to be doing things as code, it's probably useful to have a nice editor. So we can start by installing Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to paste you a URL, right? And I'll share it with the chat as well, in case people... Oh.
Yeah, unfortunately my Linux keeps freezing on my right-hand side where I'm watching the Twitch stream, so I can't keep up with us live. It's kind of a bummer.
That's fine. We'll take care of that. So if you go to the URL and maybe you want to start sharing your screen so people can actually like follow along with these steps.
Sure.
All right, cool. So if you install that one, which I think went correctly, you might want to zoom in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so I'm copying this install command.
Yes, correct. So this will give us like a nice visual text editor that we can also install plugins into to add additional functionality, right? Like recognizing the Terraform syntax, even interacting with the Docker daemon if we wanted to see like logs and things like that. So it makes it nice and easy to do things like that.
Now, yeah, it looks like my my Mac is updating from the previous command still.
All right.
Right, the Xcode command line tools.
Yep. Oh yeah, that takes.
How long is this going to take?
that does take a while because the Xcode files are pretty large.
All right, so what do we have to wait for that?
Well, you could open an extra. Oh well, if it's still installing Brew, we can't use Brew, so that's kind of like a chicken and egg problem. But while we do that, we can actually go get Terraform if we wanted to. Now,
okay.
I myself haven't used a Mac in a while, so I'm first actually going to Google if we can install Terraform with Brew, and if that is nice and up to date. Yes, that is very up to date. So we're going to be using Brew for that as well. So that will make your life easier with updating as well, because you can use it. It's basically an equivalent of apt-get, right? Which you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So through this, we can then install all the other software.
All right, did you share another link with me?
I will now.
Okay.
But did you install the first one already?
No, it's still.
That's what I thought. So
installing. Okay.
Let's take.
Yeah, no, this is a no smoke and mirrors live stream.
Nope. We're gonna go from basics all the way to. Oh geez, my browser is messing with me. I have to. Come on. I'm trying to write in chat. But when I want to type in it, I have to hit confirm some dialogue, and it kept going off screen, so I couldn't confirm.
Rob's here to support us in the chat, as you can see.
Oh, thank you, Rob. We're probably going to need it since Alexandra is using a Mac for the first time, and I haven't used one in a while, so I'm glad you're here with some expertise.
Yes, Rob, definitely.
All
so
right.
yeah, while this is installing, though, the sun is actually starting to rise. It's very exciting. Maybe by the time it's done installing, the sun will be up.
Well, we're nearly there, right? So it downloaded everything, and it should be setting that up in any second. Just to double check, are the audio levels and things all right? You can hear Alexandra, you can hear me. Yep.
I think my code needs to be increased, my font size.
Yes. I really find the downside of that terminal is when you increase the size of the font, the window increases as well.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so while we're watching paint dry, like after this, we can start doing things in parallel, so we don't have to wait as much, but. So
did you eat lunch before this, or are you eating during our stream?
No, I had a late breakfast, and that'll get me through it. I have a big pot of tea here.
Very good.
Because my mouth will get dry. Oh, Alexander, I don't want to spoil things, but it's done.
All right.
All right, so let's first install VSCode.
All right.
Right. So in that command, right, do you see the -- cask? Like for future reference for
yes.
you, right?
Yes, I do.
If you want to install visual applications, like GUI applications, they usually are installed via cask. And then like later we're going to install Terraform. You can run the command, by the way. It's like when we install Terraform, it's missing that flag because it's just a terminal application.
Okay, interesting.
So just when you're searching for formulas and things, like when you install, I don't know, the desktop application for Asana, you can
that would be -- cask.
Probably. I would assume so.
Because it has a UI.
Yeah.
All right.
So there's another link I will send you that we can probably do while we're doing this. So as I said to you, we're going to be trying out Terraform for the first steps by using the Docker provider. And I always like using the Docker provider as somebody's first steps because it's very simple. Everything's running locally and it has the, what are you?
Well, I don't know. Do I really want to screen share my
that's fine.
My Slack chat?
I can put it in your Zoom chat next time.
Oh, that would be much better.
All right.
Thank you.
So
not that there's anything in that Slack chat. It just feels weird to have Slack on a live stream.
All right. So, but I really like using the Docker provider just because it's very local and you can very easily see that it creates things, destroys things, updates things, right? Whereas if you're going to use a cloud provider, you're going to be waiting a long time for the machine to be spun up and to see things like actually happen.
And we don't have time for that today.
No, probably not. No. Well, you have all day.
That's true. That's true. I do have all day.
So I just shared you the link to Docker Desktop for Mac, which I believe is still the way to do Docker on a Mac.
Okay.
If I'm saying anything untrue about Mac, Rob, please correct me in chat because that'll happen.
I mean, Rob, you can always join us too if you want. Jump in, add some commentary. All right, cool. Looks like VSCode was successfully installed.
All right, cool. So that's one. So then we'll install Terraform. Right, that gives us almost all the components.
We're getting there.
Don't worry, Rob. We're gonna do tabs versus spaces next when she opens the text editor.
Wait, what?
No, Rob is saying Mac versus PC. Oh, let's not get into that.
Oh yeah, no, let's not get into that debate. We're not here for that today.
And then there's always the big debates about indentation in code, if it should be tabs or spaces.
Oh, interesting. How many spaces is a tab in code?
Ooh, well, that's another whole discussion because there's people that use 2 spaces as a tab or 4, right? Like Rob is in the 4 camp. I'm fine with either. I know Nick is in the 2 space camp.
Okay.
Right.
I kind of wish you hadn't told me that because I would be in Rob's camp, but now I know that I'm just not in Nick's camp.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and I know I'm just disagreeing with Nick.
Fair enough. All right. So let's install Docker.
All right. So are we getting Docker over here?
I think it's just click that one. Yes.
Okay.
So while that is downloading, right, in the terminal on your left, let's test that we can use any of the programs that we have installed so far. So let's start off by typing Terraform, maybe.
Just here?
Yep. Okay, cool. That seems to be installed, so that's fine. It's the new version, 14, nice. Now, if you would type code and then return, that will open up the editor in that current directory, right? So cool, that works as well, right? Oh, thing for you, if you want to close an application on the Mac, it's Command Q.
Okay, so are we closing out of this now that we've seen it?
Yeah, we can close it because we'll create a directory for our code and then open up the browser or the code editor there. So we just have that as the scope of the project. It'll be easier.
Okay.
Yes, very true, Luis. All right. So 20 more seconds. Let's see. So do we want to pimp your terminal maybe a little bit? I think that'll look fancy.
I think so.
It'll look all professional. So let's let me give you another link and we'll install this, which I believe we can install through Brew again, or we might not even have to. I think we can just curl it.
What do you use for your terminal?
So I use ZShell, and it just works quite nicely, and there's like plugins for it to extend it. So let me find the correct windows. Let me get Alexandra back. There we go. All right. So we're going to be installing ZSH through ZSH. And I think you can just click the install and it'll take you to like a curl command.
Okay. It doesn't have the nice little copy icon.
No, sorry. So you're gonna have to do that yourself. So select and then without the pound.
Without the.
Oh, sorry, the hashtag.
The dollar sign?
No. Oh, is it a dollar? Oh, sorry. Yes, without the dollar.
Okay. What about the quotation marks? We keep those?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, come on. My first time using a Mac mouse.
You know, I've seen other people struggle with like drag and drop. Not mentioning any names, but I know somebody feels seen.
Someone on the team, I'm guessing.
Yes, someone in chat.
Okay,
right. Paste
going
that in. Yes.
Okay, we're gonna skip Docker for now.
Yeah, we can do that in the. Yeah, Rob, not talking about you.
Oh, look at that ASCII art. How pretty.
I know.
It's not quite as pretty as Armand's face, though.
Oh, you mean the HashiCoin?
The HashiCoin, yeah.
We can actually set it up that when you open your terminal, it'll show the Armand HashiCoin face if you want to.
I think there were there like 3 or 4 of those. I downloaded, like I installed that over and over, so I got all of them.
Well, there was basically, no, I think I was the default face that Nick put in there. And then if you got the special coin, you got the Armand coin, right? Which is obviously worth more than my crypto coin. So, yeah.
I got all of them.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
they're on my Linux, so I can't share them.
Oh, well, just keep them in like a ledger and they'll be worth a bunch like in the future. Just like Bitcoin. Just see how that's going.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to invest in HashiCoin instead of Bitcoin.
Yeah. All right. So we have ZSH running. Let's install Docker. And then I think we have most of the components. Let me just double check what I had written down. Yes. I'll give you.
Yes, Rob, there was a Kelsey coin. You are correct.
Oh, wait. Or was the Kelsey coin the special one?
I think there were several special ones. Right? There was at least 3 or 4.
Oh, yeah, that could be true. I don't even remember. All right, so I'm giving you an additional command to run in Brew.
I don't know. I didn't see a Rob coin. Sorry, Rob.
No, there wasn't a Rob coin. I mean,
we could try it again, though. I mean, we do have HashiConf. We do have a HashiConf coming up.
Yeah, we'll create a HashiCoin Terraform provider.
Is this the command you're giving me?
Yes.
Okay. You got to tell me there's something happening in the chat because it doesn't pop up since I'm sharing my screen.
No, I'll share.
You'll share what?
Oh, nice pun by Rob. Like, if there was a Rob coin, do you think people would think they were being robbed?
Yeah, well, I mean, they would have been robbed, right?
Or devoopsied.
Yeah, what's better or worse?
All right, are you running the command? Like, I don't see anything anymore.
No, I'm not. Why is my... There it is. Okay.
All right.
Sorry, for some reason it scrolled up.
All right, so
Is that an actual command?
Yeah,
There
it is.
Okay.
So what we're installing now is FuzzyFinder. Now, I don't know if you've used the command while you were still running Linux, but do you use Control R to search like in your history of things you've typed?
No.
All right.
I don't type a whole lot in my terminal.
All right. Well,
let's be honest.
You're going to, right?
Okay.
So the nice thing is with Control R, you can search back in your history. And with this little plugin, it'll actually give you like a nice list of items that you've searched through or that you've executed. And then you can like filter while you're typing. So that'll make it nice and easy.
Okay.
Did we do the Docker install yet?
No, we did not. I got distracted by HashiCoin talk. We can blame Rob.
So for instance, if you go to your terminal on the left and click there and hit Control R.
Sorry, go into my terminal and hit Control R.
Yep.
And by Control R, you mean, oh, you do mean Control R.
Yeah. All right. Oh, I think we need to, all right. So Control C. We probably need to reload the session. So type exit.
The word exit.
Yeah, which will probably kill that window. No? Okay, good. So if you type ZSH again. Oh yeah, do the drag and drop thing.
Do this first?
Yeah. Well, we're doing things in, no, not there. It has an arrow there. I know, it's 6 a.m. No, not there.
Wait, where is my applications?
Wait, hit escape.
Oh.
Yeah, you try to open it there. All right. Go back to that window. I think it's a little...
Where did it go? There it is.
Yeah. So when you see that window, Alexandra, there's an arrow.
Yes.
So...
Oh, just in this window?
There we go. Just drop it.
I thought it was telling me I needed to find that folder.
No, you already found it.
I found it. Wow, it was brought right to my attention. Okay. I'm telling you that I've never used a Mac before.
Oh, that's fine. It's also very early for you. So the arrow might have been blurred by coffee.
No, that's not the excuse.
All right.
It's all for entertainment value. That's actually what this is all about.
Yeah. That's why it's good mixing time zones.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I've been told which command.
The Control R.
Control R is good with ZSH.
Well, with FZF, FuzzyFinder. Like the combination of those two is really nice. Because normally you get like what you just got, like the one-liner where it says like back search something. So with FuzzyFinder, you get like a nice fancy list that you can scroll through with your arrows and things like that.
Got it.
All right. So you can close that window.
Oh, right. Command Q is supposed to close.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Not that one.
Not that one.
Only applications.
Got it.
All right. So run the Docker.
And by run it, you mean open it?
Yes. Just double click. It should create something in the upper bar. Okay. Yep. You're very sure you want to open it.
It's downloaded from the wild internet.
Exactly. All right. So if you look at your top right of your screen, you should see like a little Docker.
See a beautiful whale
icon now. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And he's swimming. He's blowing hole out of his
blowhole.
Blowhole.
I think that's the official name, isn't it?
I don't know if that's official. I think that's the colloquial name. I think it has an actual scientific name. Someone in chat knows. I bet someone in chat knows what the blowhole is called.
Yes. So Louise, we're not using the Docker provider to store the state. We're just going to use local state for now, but we're using the Docker provider to spin up a container, pull a Docker image, stop a container, like remove it, things like that. So we'll actually be interacting with Docker through Terraform. All right, you can skip the tutorial.
Okay, I don't think our audience wants to go through that. All right, so I'm going to
there's a button that says skip.
Skip tutorial.
There we go.
Okay, this is when I learn things. I am a classic overthinker.
That's
so the step that I would have just taken without you telling me what to do
is close the window. I think you can just close the window. Just don't use Command Q because we don't want to kill the program.
Okay, but do I want to copy this first?
No.
No?
No, we don't.
We're not doing anything? Okay, so we're just closing the window.
Yes. All right, okay. You can close this window as well.
Okay.
All right.
And now, I can close this window as well.
Yes, totally correct.
That. Yay, I like a clean desktop.
All right, so now, let's see. We want to set ZSH as your default terminal, which I expected it to do itself. Can you actually try? If you do Command T from inside the terminal window, do you get a new tab?
I do.
All right, and it's opening ZSH, so that's good. You can close the old one, the old tab.
Can I do Command Q? Oh, nope, it's over here.
No, you can do Command W like you do in a browser. Oh, sorry, Windows W, Windows Mac key thingy.
Yeah, weird little squiggly thing.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so if you type Docker here, if everything went well, it should have connected everything for you. Yes, cool. All right. So we have Terraform installed, we have Docker installed, which is not a requirement for Terraform, obviously, it's just our target. We have a code editor, and we've pimped your terminal.
But why does my terminal not look pimped?
Well, that's because, all right, let's fix that first. Are you comfortable with Vim? I'm assuming no. All right, if you type code space and then dot ZSH RC.
And you can, RC or just RC?
RC, yeah, like that.
Okay.
Right. So this opens up VSCode. So let's zoom in a little bit so people can.
So much nicer on my eyes.
Yes.
Can I, like, are we no longer in this terminal?
No, we're going to use the terminal. Oh, you don't want to use. You want to use, I think it's Alt and then hit the little plus sign to make it full screen, but not take over your entire screen. Or you can just leave it like that. That's fine.
Is there an Alt? I don't think I have an Alt on my keyboard.
Oh, well, never mind then. So where you see ZSH theme, right? It says Bobby Russell right now.
Oh yeah, Bobby Russell.
Right,
Robbie Russell.
Oh, sorry, Robbie Russell. Sorry, yeah. Robbie. So let's change that to agnoster, which you can find, like, if you look at the next command, it's like that.
Yeah.
Yes. So copy paste that in.
Copy paste it up to line 11.
Yep. So just replace Robbie Russell with agnoster. Yeah. Save it.
Where am I saving?
It's Command S.
Okay.
Or like the Mac key S. Yep.
Okay. Got it.
So if you open up a new terminal window, it looks weird because you don't have the fonts. So now, oh, this is going to be a nice yak shaving expedition. All right. Power line fonts. Oh, people are going to feel our pain because probably everybody is going through this every time.
Oh man, I wish that I gotta get, like, apparently I need a second monitor on my Mac now so I can look at Twitch on the same machine.
All right, so we're gonna install this.
Okay. from here?
Yeah, doesn't matter where.
Oh no, error. Oh, do I need the dash dash?
Oh, yeah, it's install dash dash cask. They changed the command, I think.
Sure they did.
I don't know, Rob. I don't know if there is an iTerm one. Like, I honestly...
Oh. Should there be a space after the dash dash?
Isn't it install dash dash cask? I'll find it. Hold on. Brew VSCode. How did that one work? Yeah, it's install dash dash cask.
Sending me wrong commands. Install.
No, the official. Well, okay, technically somebody just sent me the wrong command.
Is it supposed to be dash dash space cask or just dash dash cask?
Dash dash cask. If you have a command and you have dash dash space,
yeah,
right, that means you're passing on the command to whichever like additional process that gets started. Whereas if you have it connected, it sees it as a flag.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, cool. So we're not going to use this terminal anymore because it's terrible. So hit command space again, and then type iterm 2. Yep, go down one. That's what we want. There we go.
Can I get out of this one? Like close it?
Yes.
Or leave it
command
open?
Q.
Okay, good.
All right.
Ooh,
I don't know why it opened the browser because we don't need that. Oh, I think, hold on, I know what happened. When you do the Mac command space, it also tries to find websites. So we shouldn't have done that. Just hit command space again. Yeah, I think it's a version of Brew. If you have an older Brew, because it used to be Brew cask install, but now it complains. Yeah, I think it's just... I don't know if it's that one.
Because this is, yes, Siri suggested websites.
Yes. Well, try to run the top one. I thought it should just be called iterm 2. Well, it's downloaded from the internet, so that's promising.
Yeah. All right, we have to bump this up.
Oh yeah, it is iterm 2. See, confusing us there. For a second, I thought like, wow, we found Rob's missing iterm 1. Well, it wasn't so. Okay, so now to get that to look properly, we need to install a font, right?
Okay.
So I'm just checking where does it. Oh, all right. It's specifying where it wants it. Can you type git for me just to make sure we have git installed? Because otherwise that's another. Yep, good. Oh, obviously it's installed when you install Brew as well. Brew needs it. So paste that command.
This whole thing.
Yep. All right.
Oh, look, Pixels joined me.
Where is she?
And Frank. Hi, Pixie. They're down here. They opened the door.
They're like, hey, you're up early. Where's our food?
Exactly.
I get woken every morning by my cat.
By your cat, yeah.
6. Like, first he's very cute. Like, sits next to me and just looks at me. Well, it's either cute or creepy. Because he'll just sit there and just stare at me for a while.
He watches you sleep.
Yes. And then he gets close and then starts sniffing. I don't know, maybe to see if I'm still breathing. I don't know if he wants me to not be breathing or not. But so, and then he starts jumping on me and he starts scratching the radiators. And it's like, okay, fine. I'll feed you. 6.
Interesting choice to scratch the radiators.
Well, it makes noise. I think he's like, well, that's the noisiest thing I can scratch. That'll get him up.
That'll wake him up.
Yep.
Yeah, see, with dogs, they sleep until you get up.
Yeah. It's better. I need to get a dog as well.
That's the new debate, right? Dogs versus cats.
Oh no, I want a dog as well.
I also want a cat, but we live out in the woods, so it would not be a safe choice.
All right, Alexander, can you
Yes, Eric.
change the theme to this?
Ooh, power level 10K.
Well, yeah, let's see where we need to. No, in
Oh.
where it says ZSH theme. Let's try that and see if that came with the fonts, which I'm.
Oh, to the instead of agnoster, right?
Yes.
You're saying.
Yes.
Got it.
All right, save it.
Command S.
Yep.
Oh.
Nope.
There we go.
All right, cool. And then open up a new terminal window. See if we. Yeah, just type yes. It's like, hey, if it'll install the font for us, please.
Please.
All right, so Command Q, we're gonna restart the terminal. And, yep.
Oop.
Oh.
No.
No.
Oh.
No.
What?
It's the little Apple thingy space.
Oh, space. I was doing.
Yep. Return. Yeah, cool. Yeah, check automatically for updates. It's always good.
A new version is available.
Yeah, we're
Am I
just
installing this now?
Just yeah, fine. We're down the rabbit hole anyway already. Yes, the git clone URL that we were using is this one.
Well, we're in the power level 10K configuration wizard.
Do you want a rotated diamond square? Yeah, why not? I think
Everyone likes a great diamond. Oops.
let's just go. Yes, you have to type yes. Oh, it's asking a lot of question thingies. They're
these
very
icons...
close. There is no overlap. That is correct. Yes.
Ooh.
And let's go with which
Not
one do
the
you
last...
like? Which
Not
one do you
three.
Like? Not three.
Yeah.
Which one do you like?
I think 1 and 4 are pretty great.
I think four looks pretty nice.
All right, let's do 4.
You can always change this later. And then I like color 2 more than like obviously snazzy.
Well, yeah, I'm on the snazzy train.
Do you want the time on the left or on the right?
I think on the left.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh.
definitely 24-hour format.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's what all my clocks are military time.
Oh, and I would do 1 line. Like a 1-liner instead of 2.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it becomes quite annoying with copy pasting things. It's like, oh, the command actually runs from below.
You know what we should have done is had people in the chat choose the choose the selections.
Yeah, you know what, you would have had rainbow and then crazy colors.
It also probably would have taken us another hour to get through this.
True. I don't see any difference between these things.
You don't see wait. Line spacing?
Yeah. I was like, wait, they all look the same. I don't know. 1? I guess.
We'll go with 1.
Oh, jeez. How many commands are there? It feels like an inquiry.
Enable transient prompt.
I don't know. No. I think. Yeah, just do no.
So it recommends verbose. So we should just go with that.
Yeah. It was too much text. Apply changes? Yes, definitely. All right. Cool.
We're finally there?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get started with our first Terraform resources then, right? So
Do I still need this window open?
Well, you can close it for now. So Command Q out of it. We'll open it up once we created like a little project directory, right?
Okay.
Right. On your Mac, is there like any specific place you would want your projects to be, like in the documents folder, or like, I don't know how neat.
I mean, let's go with documents, I suppose.
Okay, so let's cd into the documents folder.
Let's what?
Change directory, cd.
CD?
Yeah, space and then documents. And hit, yeah, if you do ls, just to double check. Yep, that's fine.
That. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So let's make a directory in here called Terraform, for instance. So make dir, mk dir.
Dir?
No, not Rudolph. So it's one command, and it's mkdir, like from directory.
Oh, that makes more sense, wouldn't it?
Oh, it depends on if it's Christmas or not. So make dir and then space the name of the directory, so Terraform.
Okay, so mkdir Terraform.
Yep. Okay, so we've made that. So we can now cd into that. cd stands for change directory.
Oops. cd Terraform.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
No such file or directory.
Oh, it's when you type cd without any command, it goes back to root level. So we need to do cd doc and then hit tab for a change. doc tab. There we go. It auto completes, and then Terraform tab. Yeah, you could have just tabbed it and then return.
Oh.
Okay, so now you see in your prompt that it put the path where you are in front of it, right? So that gives us a nice idea of where we are in the tree. Okay. So now I want you to type code space dot. So we're going to open up the Visual Studio Code in...
Dot the word.
No, just... Oh. Yes.
Period? Okay.
Yeah, which you'll... Oh, sorry, period.
Dot's fine too, but they're both also words.
Well, period is a word as well.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. So it'll open up Visual Studio Code in the current directory. That's what the dot means. It's the current directory. Okay. So let's get rid of the welcome page by unchecking that show welcome page on startup checkbox at the bottom. We definitely don't want...
Oh, that guy. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then close that little window at the... No, not that one. Yes, that one. Yep. Cool. Okay. So let's make our first file, right? So normally Terraform files have the TF file extension. So that's what we'll be doing. And we'll create a file called main. So in the left side of the editor is your file tree. So we can just right click or click the new file button. That works as well. And then let's call it main.tf. Right. And you see that it gets the little Terraform icon as well.
Yeah.
Which is snazzy.
So snazzy.
Okay. So first thing we need to do is we need to configure Terraform. You can actually search the marketplace because that's a nice way to add the plugin. So yeah, install the top one, the HashiCorp Terraform one.
Cool.
So we'll be first setting up Terraform so it knows which providers to use. Right, so in our case, we want to be using the Docker provider. Command, not filed code. Yes. You need to install Visual Studio Code. On which operating system are you?
Catalina.
Oh, I wasn't asking you. I was asking chat.
Oh.
For you, it works. So we installed it using Brew from that, with the command listed there.
Oh, you were talking to someone's
yeah, we had a question
or issue. Yep,
yes.
Got it.
So was helping them. All right, so you have this plugin installed, which is cool. We can close that tab at the top. No, not that one.
The other one's hiding behind our faces.
That's fine.
Oh, look at that. It goes to different orientation. Okay.
Okay. And on the left side, totally left side, you have like the hour of the, what do you call it? The search glass kind of thingy? The magnifying glass?
The toolbar?
Yeah, but click the one above, which has like the 2 files. That'll give us the file tree again instead of the plugins.
Okay.
All right. So the Terraform plugin for VSCode is actually giving us a hint of what we need to do. So in order for it to recognize Terraform files, the directory needs to have been initiated. So we need to run Terraform init. Now we can either do that through the terminal, right? By running the Terraform init command ourselves, or we can click that button on the right side, which says
down here.
Terraform init. Yeah.
Look at that.
So it's actually helping us. So this is the easier way to do it. So just click that button. All right. So it's running things in the background for us. We can close the installed pop-up little install Terraform. Yeah, we don't need that one.
Okay. That one's not actually helping us.
No, not that one. So I have a few links that should help us, right? We're going to start with Terraform, and we want to use the Docker Terraform provider. So I'm sharing this on the stream now. Bless you.
You can believe it. That was upstairs.
So in order to use this, we need to configure Terraform, right? So I'm going to give you the link so you can execute these commands yourself. And I'm going to share in chat the provider itself so people can follow along if they want to. All right. So the registry documentation takes you through most of the steps, which is really nice.
So am I opening this in Chrome?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So this explains the Docker provider. And the Docker provider is basically a plugin for Terraform that handles the communication between Terraform and Docker for you, right?
Right, yeah.
So Terraform will say, create this for me. And then the provider knows like, oh, then I need to issue this command and that command and that command on Docker, right? It'll call the APIs of the Docker host, which for you is Docker for Mac. So what we need to do first is we need to set up Terraform that it knows to require this provider. So on the top right, you have the use provider button, right? And it actually gives you all the configuration you need. So we can just copy paste this into the main.tf file.
Into this line 1 over here?
Yes. Now, because we have the Terraform VSCode plugin installed, we get this nice color highlighting.
Yeah.
Right? So that'll tell us like, oh, this is a string, like a piece of text, or it is a number or a command or a variable, right? So the way Terraform works it uses, we created the main.tf file. So we made a directory called Terraform, and then we just created the file ourselves in the editor. So Alexandra did that by just hitting the little plus file button, main.tf. So Terraform uses this language called ACL, which is a superset of JSON. So it can be translated into JSON. It's just adding functionality on top, just like YAML does, which you might be familiar with from other tools.
Did you say ACL or HCL?
HCL.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That's what I heard ACL, but I know you're talking about HCL.
Yes. Sorry, it's my Dutch accent.
It is. I didn't say H.
No, that's a British thing,
okay.
which always messes me up because sounds very strange, especially when they try to say HTTP. It's HTTP.
But isn't Z also an English thing?
Yes, I think so.
But
Which
you
in the
say
US
Z.
it's Z, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Rob,
what
what
do you
do
say,
you?
what do you say in Dutch instead of Z? Because you say Z.
I think we say Z because in Dutch the letter is also Z. So
Okay.
it's the closest, but I'm impartial in this one.
Okay.
It's not like tabs versus spaces or anything.
And you don't feel as strongly about it as you do about H.
No, because H
Okay.
just sounds weird. Rob, do you say H?
Rob says Z.
Well,
You know
yeah, but
that.
he's British. Yeah, Rob says H. Yeah.
H instead of H.
H. H. Well, yeah.
All right, am I hitting return on this, or are you still?
No, so this is not a
things?
command, right? What
Okay.
you've just posted is code, right?
Okay.
So basically, we created a configuration block for Terraform that says the required providers for this piece of code or this infrastructure is Docker, and then we specify the name of the provider and then which version we want to use.
Okay.
Right? So there's a whole lot of providers. There is providers for each of the cloud providers. There's a provider for things like GitHub, even for Asana. So that's what we'll eventually get into, like get you automated. And then what we need to do to configure the provider itself, we have the second block, which is the provider block, which then refers to the required provider variable that we defined at the top, right? So if you look at the required providers, we have Docker equals.
Mm-hmm.
So that then is the same name we need to use in provider space, that name, right?
Right.
Which, because we copy pasted it from the registry, it's already done for us.
Already there for us.
Yes. Now,
Thank you, Terraform.
Yeah. So now, because we're just using Docker on our local machine, we don't need to configure anything else as far as I know. So we can just leave it at this. If we save this,
Command S. It's
Yep.
saved.
And we go to the terminal.
Boop.
Yep. And type Terraform init. So that's basically the command you did before through clicking that button inside of VSCode, but we're now doing it from the command line. Right.
Yep. Okay.
Now, the reason why we're running Terraform init is we just added a provider. And what Terraform will do for us when we run init is it'll actually go out and fetch that provider for us. So it'll download it and then put it in the directory locally, so we have that there, right? Because if you look in your code editor, in the left side, you have the file tree, right? Mm-hmm. Where first we only had main.tf, but now we also have a .terraform directory, right? So yes. If you open that one up.
The top one?
Yep. Right. We see that we have Terraform provider Docker. So it actually went out and downloaded that binary for us, right? So that's really neat, right? We don't have to keep track of where that provider lives. Terraform does all that for us. Because it's an official provider, it has that in the registry and it'll just pull that down. Okay, so now the first step for us to do is create a container that will run on top of Docker, right? So if we go back to the browser where you had the registry open, it actually gives us an example of a very simple Terraform file, right? So it has the provider at the top, which we don't need to do since we already have that. And it defines two resources, right? So we're going to copy those two resources, the Docker container and the Docker image. And we'll paste that into our main.tf.
Okay, right here on line 12.
I would create some space above and then, so sorry, return, and then. That's to just keep it nice and readable, right?
I like that it landed on number 14. That was always my number when I played sports as a kid. So it's a good
Is
first
that a
first
lucky number
line
or?
to create a container, is what I'm saying. It's
Okay.
not lucky, but it's just, I don't know. I like that number.
Okay. Well, let's hope everything keeps working then. Oh,
I hope so.
and just to make Rob unhappy, do you see Rob? It's defaulting to 2 spaces. Yeah, I know. All right. So
Oh, here you're saying like
exactly.
this is the
That's
tab.
a tab, but in this case it's 2 spaces.
Mhm.
So so the way Terraform works is there are two types of like basic things. You have data sources and resources, right? So a resource is a thing you can create, update, and delete, right? You can manipulate. And then a data source is a thing where you can get information from, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's create an analogy that you might get, right? If you have a thermostat in your home, right?
Yes.
You would have a data source could be, I'm going to go out and check out what the weather or the temperature is in my location,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I have that temperature, and then the resource can use information from that data source to then set the temperature, for instance.
Okay.
Right? So there could be a temperature resource, for instance, or thermostat temperature resource that you would then say temperature equals 21 or whatever temperature is outside plus something, right? You can use information from other places and then use that in your resources for calculations. So that can be very useful if you're creating cloud infrastructure, because you're not always certain of everything that's out in the environment because things keeps changing a lot. So you could say, for instance, okay, give me a virtual machine image name from this family, and I don't care what the latest version is, just fetch that, and then you can use that version to create a machine with that version, for instance. Right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
for us, we're going to just be creating resources and not data sources.
Okay.
So are you familiar with Docker?
No.
Okay, cool. So are you
Cool.
familiar with chroot on Linux?
No.
Okay. Look at it like this, right? So what Docker does is it creates a little bubble on your machine, and inside that bubble, it'll start an application, right? Like a web server or a database, or can be any project really.
Erik, someone in the chat asked if we could explain again the difference between data source and resource.
Yes. So data source is basically a source that you get data from, right? So it's Terraform reaching out to something to get information. And a resource is something that Terraform creates for you, right? So if you're thinking of cloud provider, the name for a VM image could be a data source, right? I'm reaching out to the cloud to fetch a name of an image and a version, and then we create a resource that uses that in the cloud, right, to create a VM. So the difference is basically pulling information or pushing something and creating something. Does that make sense, Alexandra?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I liked your thermostat example, right? Like we don't have control over the actual outside temperature,
Yes.
but that is the data that our resource is using to determine how the resource acts.
Yes.
So the data source isn't controlled by the program. The resource is, what's the word, adjusts based on the data source.
Yes. Like when you create a resource, you don't need to use a data source. But
Ooh,
for
now
those
we're complicating it.
for those flexible variables, it's a nice way to go out and fetch them, right? But you could just have a thermostat where you say always set the temperature to 21, right? Or always heat up or whatever, right? You don't need outside information in that case. So for us, for instance, we don't need any outside information. We just need a container. And in order for that container to be created, that little bubble, we need to tell it which image it needs to create that bubble from, right? So for you, Alexandra, when you installed Ubuntu, right, you downloaded an ISO, right? That's basically an image of that operating system, right, that gets installed on your machine. So Docker does something similar where it grabs a container image, which is like a very stripped down operating system, right, with the bare minimum in there. And it'll use that to populate that little bubble, right? So it's kind of like creating a little machine on your machine, but it's still using all the shared resources. I don't know if you've ever used a virtual machine.
I have not.
Okay. Do you know what a virtual machine is in greatest sense?
Yeah, it's well, I don't know the actual definition.
Oh, I don't mean that. Do you know what it kind of does?
It's a machine that lives off of your machine, right?
Yes, but it's entirely isolated, right? It's in all intents and purposes, it's its own machine, right? You give it a CPU, you give it some RAM, and that's what it has, right? But a container is actually using your operating system below it to do that, and it's just sharing the things.
Right, and that's what you mean by shared resources.
Yes.
Yep.
Now, for more advanced things, which we can do later, is you can limit the resources of a container, for instance. If you say like, oh, but I don't want it to use everything on my machine, I want it to have like some limits, you can do things like that to safeguard, right?
Okay.
So you're familiar with Ubuntu, so it's nice that this example uses Ubuntu.
And this is just an example, right? Like I don't have to install Ubuntu on my...
No, Docker will spin all that up for you. So that's why you'll actually
in the container.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's going to run Ubuntu inside of a container.
Cool.
Right? So at the bottom, we specify the Docker image. In this case, we're calling it Ubuntu. That's the name we give it. So if you look at the bottom, it says resource, type, and then name, right? So resource, Docker image is the type, and the name we want to give it is Ubuntu. So if you hover over it, because you've installed the plugin, it'll actually tell you.
Yeah, it tells you what it is.
Yes, and it explains all the keywords as well. So now I said Ubuntu is the name, right? But that is the name within our Terraform code, right? The other name that we specify within the resource, that's actually the configuration, right? So this is just the name tag we're hanging on to it so we can reference it somewhere else later.
Okay.
So if you think of it as like a cow, we're giving it an ear tag so we can keep track of it, right? But we also named the cow Daisy.
Okay. So we don't have to remember the tag number.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
So in this case, right, we're going to use the Ubuntu latest image. So that'll go out to Docker Hub and grab the latest version of the Ubuntu system, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's our first resource. But that resource doesn't do anything per se. It'll just pull the image. So it'll only download it. It won't start. So that's why we need the second resource. So that's the Docker container resource. Okay? So this one we've named foo, but it could be, again, anything. And inside we're configuring that container. So this is where that name tag comes into play, right? If you look, the image is Docker image dot Ubuntu. So that's actually the path we created below in that other resource, right? It's the type dot name. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. So the reference name. So the nice thing here is we don't need to copy and paste those values every time, everywhere. Right? If we spun up 3 containers all from the same image, we can just reference that one image.
And we would just have to reference it as foo.
No, so the image is called Ubuntu, right?
Yes.
So we reference it as Ubuntu.
Okay.
Right. So now if we change the image from Ubuntu to Debian latest, for instance, it's automatically updated on the container. So you're very handy with Excel, right? Sheets.
Yeah.
So in Sheets, you have references to columns and rows.
Yes.
This is exactly that.
Okay.
Right? Ubuntu is basically the source column and row, like that field. And then we're using the value that's in that field inside of the Docker container resource.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we're basically, Docker image is the sheet, and then Ubuntu is the field in that sheet. So the way to reference it is Docker image dot name, so Ubuntu in this case.
Yep. Dot latest.
Yep. And to get the correct image, you have to add the dot latest, which is a variable of the Docker image resource type.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
Then we're adding a name to our Docker image. And that's basically so when Docker runs it, we can actually recognize it. Otherwise, Docker will just choose a random name for us. Okay.
Wait, say that part again.
So we're giving the Docker container a name. So when it creates that little bubble, it actually labels it with foo.
Okay.
So later when we do Docker PS to see all the running processes, we'll actually see that it's called foo.
Yep.
Okay, so save this.
Come on.
Yep. Let's head over to our terminal. And
we're at the terminal.
It's on the left.
I said we're at the terminal.
Oh, sorry.
We've arrived.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Urza, you actually need, in this case, it's very confusing with the Docker provider that the latest in the image reference is not actually referring to the tag of the image. It's referring to the latest hash for that tag. And it's something I mess up all the time myself, because I also just think like, oh yeah, and then I just need dot latest. But that dot latest in the image reference refers to the latest field of the Docker image resource, which is the latest hash of the tag. So in that case, you actually need it. In the Docker image itself, where it says name equals Ubuntu :latest, you don't actually need it there because it will actually pull the latest image. So that is correct there. And for you, Alexandra, basically, it is the version of the image that you want to download. So that's normally denominated by the : version. In this case, we just want the latest.
Okay.
So we're at the terminal. Woohoo!
We're here. We've arrived.
So let's type Terraform plan. So what this will do is it won't actually go out and create the things for us yet. It'll tell us, hey, I'm planning to do this. Is that okay? Right? So you can safely run Terraform plan.
This is exciting. Planning is in my vernacular.
Okay, so we have another question. It's mandatory in Terraform to give the latest keyword. So let's see. can you see my mouse? Yes. Okay. So over here, where it says image, here it is required, but down here, it is not. So this refers to the actual image version, like you would normally have when you run the Docker command. But this one actually is a field of this resource. And it's just the confusing way that they built the provider. And yeah, you have to just, if you use latest here, it'll always work out fine. And down here, you can just actually use the version that you want to use. Okay, Alexandra. So
yes,
when you ran the plan, it outputted a whole bunch of things, right? It gives us an output of what it will create. Mm-hmm. Now, if we look at the top, it should say that it's going to create a Docker container called foo, which is correct. And it's actually listing all the values that it has there that it will populate. And some of them it won't know until it actually creates them, because it won't know the IP address before it creates them, for instance, but it'll report it afterwards. So if we scroll further down, we should see that we have our other resource as well. Yep, there we see our Docker image Ubuntu. Everything looks good. It wants to add 2 resources, change 0, destroy 0, which is correct because we didn't do anything yet.
Yep.
So let's go out and actually create this. So in order to do that, we need to run Terraform apply.
Okay.
So go ahead. Yep. So it outputs everything again, as you saw before, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Is this what you want? And then we can type yes. And it'll go and create this for us.
So why would I use Terraform plan if Terraform apply shows me the same information and then allows me to say yes or no that I want to do it?
Good question. So normally when you're working together with other people, right? There can be timing problems if everybody is working on the same piece of code at the same time. Because if I run, if I just do apply and no plans, right? I run Terraform apply, and while that is going, or before you type yes, somebody else can also run that command with their own changes, which is the actual code that you're now getting deployed. So what you normally want to do is the plan you can actually output to a file.
Okay.
So what you then do is you do Terraform apply, or sorry, Terraform plan, and then you output it to a plan file. And then what you can do is inside of Terraform apply, you can then say apply that specific plan. Right. So then you know exactly like, hey, that's the one that we planned before. No other changes have come since then. And then you can apply that very specific version.
Okay, that makes more sense.
But in this case, since it's just us, we can just do Terraform apply immediately.
And then yes.
Yeah.
You
need to click, yeah. There we go. Okay, so it's now outputting everything that it's doing in the background. So it says it's creating the image first, right? And that might be strange for you because you're looking at your code and you're saying, hey, I defined the container first and then the image. Now, that's actually a really nice feature of Terraform, because what it does, it creates like a little graph of all your resources, right? And if we look at our container resource, we actually see that we're referencing the image resource. So while building up that tree, Terraform knows that, okay, the Docker image needs to be there before the container can use it. Yep. So it creates that directional graph for us and then does all the dependencies for us. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it created that image, it created the container, everything is up and running. But now you're asking like, okay, cool, but I don't see anything. So if you run docker ps.
Sorry, I was trying to read the chat.
Not that one.
Oopsie. Docker ps.
Yep. Okay. Now, this is because Ubuntu, by default, doesn't keep running, right? It opens a shell, and there's no command for the shell itself, so it'll just exit immediately. So if you do docker ps space -a for all.
Wait, sorry, docker ps.
Yep.
Dash
a. Yep.
That's it?
Yep. So we can actually see that about a minute ago, our container called foo exited, right? With a 0. So it exited correctly, but because there's no command, it won't keep running, right? Okay, yep. So let's change that, right? Let's change our container to add a variable. So I'm gonna grab. Going to the Docker provider. And you can do so too, by the way, if you open it in the browser again.
Where am I going?
To the one on the left. You have the tab already open.
Oh, the
yes.
Provider. Yeah,
okay.
you did say Docker provider.
That's fine. So on the left side, we see resources and data sources, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we want to extend our resource. So let's open that one and let's go to the Docker container, right? This actually gives us all the fields we can pass in, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So what we want to do is we want to add a command to our Docker container so it'll keep running.
Okay.
Right? So we see the command field there. So in our Docker container resource, let's add a field called command.
Okay. How do I do that?
Okay, so go back to the editor, the text editor.
Yes.
On the right, yeah. So keep the terminal or the browser on the left. So we have the documentation nice next to our code, right? So we go to our code on the right, and inside the resource block for the Docker container, we're going to add a field. So that's a Docker image one. We need to go up to the, like line 17 we need to go.
Okay.
Right, and then at the end of line 17, we're gonna create a new line below that. And we're gonna type command equals. So we're going to set the value of the field command. And we need to open up brackets, because it expects a list of, not those, the square brackets. Which is, yeah, which is how you define a list in programming languages. Right? And it expects a list of strings, which is a text, which is like something between the quotes. Right? So in this case, a command that doesn't exit, the easiest one I think would be true. So between quotes, type true. I think true. Let me double check. Yes. Oh. Yep. So it's not true. It's yes. Okay. Now, if we go back to, we need to save the file.
Yes, we do.
Just get used to saving after everything you do.
Okay.
And let's type Terraform plan again in the terminal. Thanks, Rob, for helping out with the Docker install. Okay. So if we look, it wants to add one container. And that's because our previous container stopped running, right? So Terraform's actually detecting that, okay, my desired state is I want this container to be running. But it's noticing that the actual state is there is no running container. So what Terraform tries to do is it tries to consolidate that state and just tries to make it as you have described in your code, right? So in your code, you've described, I want a container called foo to be running. It's not. So in this case, let's just type Terraform apply again, because this is what we want.
Yes.
Yes. And
okay, it's moving around over here.
It's created it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's updating the state files, right? So in the state, it has all the details of what it created with which values, etc. So when you make changes, it can compare that state to your changes, and then it knows what to update, delete, or create. Okay, so if we type docker ps again, we see that we have a running container. It's been up for 32 seconds.
2 seconds, yep.
And it's running the command yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've actually created your first resource that is running. You have your infrastructure up and running.
Look at that.
Right? Isn't that cool?
My first container.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's try to change something in that container, right? Because when you create some infrastructure, there's always things you want to change along the way. Right? So let's, instead of yes, let's use the command tail, which will read a file, like the end of the file, and we can make that it keeps reading it, right? So where it says yes now, let's change that to tail.
Over here, line 18.
Yep. Yes, correct.
Now, is this tail like we're telling a tale, or like the long tail?
Like the dog has.
Dog has a tail, okay.
All right. And then behind the quote, we want to write a comma, because we're going to add another value to this list.
Behind the quote, as in?
Yes, correct.
I don't know what that means. That must be Dutch.
Just move the cursor one to the right.
After the quote or before the quote?
After.
Okay.
Behind, not in front of. It's like going that way. Makes sense. Okay, so between quotes, we want to write all the additional parameters for the tail command, right? So we want to follow a file, right? We want to keep reading from the end. So we need to write the -f flag. So tail -f. And then after that, we want to add another command to the list.
So that's after the quote?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
All right. And then between quotes again, /dev dev for device /null null.
After the quote again?
No. This is one. This is the path on your file system.
Okay.
So dev null is basically nothing, right? It's the void. So if you want to get rid of a file or something, write it to there and it just disappears. It's like the garbage can on Windows, kind of, but you can't get it back. In this case, we will be reading from the void, so it'll just be quiet.
Okay.
Which is good. Okay, so let's save that.
I already did. I already command S'd.
Graduated to next level. There we go.
I'm a fast learner.
So let's do a Terraform plan, and let's see what Terraform wants to do. Right? Okay. So it sees there are changes, right? It wants to add something, and it wants to destroy something. So let's scroll up and see why that is and what it's trying to do.
Oh, what does it want to destroy?
Exactly. Because we just want to change the command, right? We don't want to do that. Okay. So the nice thing is that the plan will actually tell us, right? So in this case, it must be replaced because changing the command forces a replacement, right?
Okay, yes.
it very kindly tells us that it's trying to remove yes, and it's adding tail-f/dev null, right? So, and that change forces a replacement. Not every change forces a replacement, right? But in this case, it's such a fundamental change that it needs to stop the container and start it again, right? So for our purposes right now, that's fine. Let's do that. So let's do a Terraform apply and then type yes. Now, it might seem like very extra to keep running the plan, but while you're developing your code, it's very common to do that because it also catches mistakes in your code. Like, oh, if you forgot to type something, and it just returns faster than the apply does.
Okay. Why is that? Why does it return faster?
I think apply does some additional checks beforehand, whereas plan just compares the state with what you're creating.
Okay.
So let's type yes and then return. All right. So
destroying.
Yep. It destroyed that previous container and created a new one for us. So if we do docker ps, we should see our new container with the new state. Yep. Updated 12 seconds ago, and we see that we have that new command in there. So that's two pieces of basically the Terraform lifecycle, which is creating infrastructure, making changes, but very often when you're creating things, eventually you're done with them and you want to get rid of things, right?
Yeah.
So there's a command for that as well. So let's type Terraform Destroy.
I've heard about this one.
Where it goes terribly wrong, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes. But
it's one of those things you don't type flippantly.
Well, it's not that scary because hit return. Right? It actually tells you what it wants to destroy. Right?
Sure.
So if we scroll up, right, it says it wants to destroy two things. All right. Let's see what it wants to destroy. So first one is the container. Correct. That's still running. And then the second one should be further below, I guess. Yep.
The image.
Exactly. So it'll actually get rid of that for us. All right. So if you do run this by accident, you can see like, oh, I didn't mean to destroy that. Right? So you always have an out in this case. Now, we have been typing yes and no every time, right? When we want to run a command and we want to either approve it or not. Right. You can actually add a flag of auto-approve when you run the command.
Oh, okay.
And that's when you're like, oh, something was in there that I didn't want to get rid of.
Right. That's when it's dangerous.
Yes.
Got it.
So in this case, we want to get rid of it. So let's run the command with yes. All right, so let's do docker ps. Okay. Container is gone, right? It's been cleaned up. If we do docker images.
Like that?
Yep. It also cleaned up the Ubuntu image, so it freed up that space on your machine as well. Right? So now you've actually learned another nice thing, which is Docker, which is a really nice way to run some complicated applications on your machine, like nicely encapsulated without it spidering into your whole file system, etc. Right? So if you want to run a web server, you can just run the Docker Nginx image, for instance, and you can then mount your web file service or your website files in there, and it'll just serve that for you.
Okay.
So that's basically the entire life cycle. Oh, so the tail command is just a Linux command. And what it basically does is it reads from the end of a file. So from the tail end of a file, there's also a command called head, which reads from the top. So tail reads from the bottom. And then the other things we typed are -f for follow. So that means that it doesn't read it just once. It keeps reading it constantly. And then the last parameter that we put in there is which file that we wanted to read. So that's /def/null. And the reason why we did this is we wanted to force a change to the image.
So Rob actually said something in the chat as well. The other way to run is to run a destroy plan, then apply that plan.
Yep.
So that's the same? Is that similar in the sense of you would run Terraform destroy plan, and it would show you what you're going to do, and you could save that and then actually apply?
Yes.
That? Okay. So you don't screw up somebody else's work.
Well, ideally, if you're cooperating on infrastructure, ideally you would have shared state first of all, right? Because in your case, you see that tf-state file in that directory on the left, right? Mm-hmm. That contains all the infrastructure that you spun up. If we delete that file, Terraform won't know what to destroy, right? Now, if you are working together with, say, Katie on something, and you have your tf-state locally, and Katie has as well, those can be entirely different things.
Sure.
So ideally, you would want your Terraform state to live remote somewhere, right? So that's either Terraform Cloud. The free tier lets you store state, which is really nice because it's encrypted and everything, and you basically don't need to do anything for it. Or you could use, if you're already in a cloud provider, you could use Google Cloud Buckets or S3 buckets or any of the equivalents for all the cloud providers. So you could store the state there as well.
Okay.
So that helps in two things. First of all, if you lose all your data on your computer, your infrastructure state is still stored and safe. And second of all, let's say you're working together with Katie. If you are doing an apply, Terraform will actually lock the file. So when Katie tries to run the command, it'll tell her like somebody is already using that state, it's locked. So you can't run your command right now. So that prevents conflicts where you're manipulating the things at the same time and you get some strange hybrid state.
Right. And right, when we did Terraform apply, we're not doing a whole lot right now. So it went fairly quickly. Like what's the other end of the spectrum, right? Like what's the variance of how long it takes to apply something?
So because this was all locally, it's instant.
Super quick, yeah.
But when you're working with cloud providers, it's very common that it takes minutes. And for very complex things that you're spinning up, like let's say databases or Kubernetes clusters, that can take 20 minutes depending on the cloud provider. So as long as it would take you to click through and build it in the cloud provider itself and then wait for that to spin up, all that time, you're still going to have to wait because Terraform is still reliant on the cloud provider APIs to do that. So there's a variance in there. And obviously, when you're creating that kind of infrastructure, that's gonna be when you get the collisions of, oh, somebody's already trying to do something, and you're trying to write that same state.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's a good thing that it locks.
Yes, it's a very good thing. Speaking from experience of trying to fix state manually after it being garbled with other state, it is not fun trying to recreate that.
So if it locks, right, how would it get garbled?
So if it locks, it doesn't. But if before Terraform introduced that in already one of the very early versions, but in the very beginning, there was issues where state could mess up. But luckily, that's all in our very, very distant past. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. And using remote state is definitely the way to go. And Terraform Cloud is by far the easiest way to do it, because you just basically tell it what the remote organization is, so the workspace on Terraform Cloud, and it'll just store the state in that workspace for you. Don't have to do anything. Now, another thing you could do if you're working together with Terraform is you are running all the commands on your machine, right?
Yes.
Now, the nice thing is if you use something like Terraform Cloud is you can actually run the apply on the remote machine, so in Terraform Cloud, and you would still get all that feedback back on your local machine. So you can run Terraform apply on your machine itself. It'll reach out to Terraform Cloud that will execute the apply and output all the data back to you. So it feels kind of like you were doing now. It's just, it's not running on your machine.
Right.
Which has, in this case, probably not that many advantages because it's you running things on your local machine. But if you're working together on cloud infrastructure, for instance, you're going to have secrets, right? Like login details for cloud providers, etc. And having to distribute that amongst everybody that just wants to run a Terraform apply, you introduce a new problem of the secret sprawl, where it's like, oh yeah, who did we give the access keys to for our Google Cloud project? Now in Terraform Cloud, you can define those variables once, and they'll be encrypted and stored in Vault, so you don't have to worry about the security of them then. And nobody needs those credentials. You just need to have a login for that Terraform Cloud workspace, and then you can just execute it from there.
That makes sense. Keep it all centralized.
Yep.
I'm just going to say that my Linux, right, my Wi-Fi for the first time is actually picking up our stream without buffering the whole time.
Oh, wow. Well, I hoped for everybody on the stream, Alexandra was not buffering.
I hope so. It's my Wi-Fi. I know that for a fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody was asking if they could see Terraform Cloud, like how that would work. Let me see if I actually have something.
I'm reading Rob's comments here.
Okay. So I'm just creating a Terraform Cloud workspace. And I'll actually show on stream. So let's see. I think that's probably easier for everybody to read. Okay. I hope everybody can read that fine. So
looks okay to me.
Yep, cool.
I could finally tell you that.
Oh, I didn't want to go. I want to go into Twitch first. There we go. So this is basically the same as you've been doing, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to create a new file, main.tf. I'm going to grab the Docker provider. So just copy pasting in this configuration, right? Don't need to do anything else. Going to use this same thing you had. Going to add the command, right? So we want to run yes, because that was nice and simple. Now, in order to use the remote backend, all I have to do is add some configuration to this Terraform block, which configures Terraform itself, right? So all you would have to do is add a backend remote tell it which Terraform Cloud organization it's in, and then the workspace you're using. So then if we grab the terminal and do a Terraform init. Oh, hold on. Fix DNS. Thank you, WSL2. So that was just my local machine. For some reason, it loses DNS every time. So I've written a little program to fix DNS. Okay, so it actually found the provider and installed that, and it configured my remote backend. So then if I do Terraform plan, you'll see that it's taking slightly longer because it's actually reaching out to Terraform, right? And obviously this plan is going to fail because it's trying to reach Docker on my local machine, which will never work. But it's actually going there and trying to create this, right? So let's say I do, it's not gonna work with that one. Let's see, let's try the null resource. So I'm going to go to modules. Let's see, let's just do a random number. So I believe it's called HashiCorp random. A random provider. Bear with me while I Google. There we go. Okay. So in order to use the random provider, I'm copy pasting in an additional provider thing. So let's not use the Docker one because it tries to reach the Docker provider locally, or the Docker daemon locally, which will never work. I hope that makes sense, Alexandra. Please fill in when things are unclear.
It makes sense right now, but yes, I will interrupt you.
Okay. So, and then let's create a random ID, or let's use random string. We don't need keepers. So we want a random string of 16 characters, right? So, okay, cool. So I need to do a Terraform init again because I changed the providers. So Terraform will want to update that and download those, right? So it installed the random provider. And then if we do a Terraform plan, let's hope this one works. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So it's running remotely. I get the output just as I would from running it locally. It's just coming back from Terraform Cloud. So if I then do Terraform apply, all right. And just as before, it'll still ask me if I want to do that. So in this case, yes, I want this random string to be created. And okay, it has this this random string, basically nothing. So let's see in our state. Oh, I'm running an old version, I guess. All right, well, let's fix that immediately then as well. Terraform.io. Download. Thanks.
I feel like my Twitch got started at just the right time, because otherwise I would just be sitting here staring at my screen.
Yeah. Terraform. All All right. So checking the version. Okay, now I have the newest one. So because in the newest version, we now actually allow you to run those commands as well. So that's why I just installed a new one. We can see that it has the random string called string in its state. And then if I drag over this one, here we can see in the UI that we actually see our plan and our apply as well, right? So here we see the details of the plan. And here we can see our apply. And the nice thing is, I'm running the plan and apply commands locally now from my terminal, but you can connect Terraform Cloud to your source control as well. So if you're using GitHub, for instance, every time you push a change to the registry or the repository, you will trigger a run, or you can choose to, and it'll then automatically deploy your infrastructure. And then in case you want to, you could add like safeguards that, okay, you can only manually approve applies, for instance, and do things like that. All right, bringing you back up, Alexandra. So
the sun just shined through.
I know.
So I'm somewhat blinded here.
That's fine. So do you have any like lingering questions where it's like, okay, but you show me this, how does that work, right? Because we set up your environment where you can write code. You have the helpers installed inside of your editor. We did some commands inside of your terminal to set up your terminal, make it look a little bit nicer, and we installed Terraform and Docker, right? You created your first resource, made changes to it,
then I
destroyed it. How does that feel?
It feels great. I mean, yeah, it's fun to create my first container, spin it up, and then get rid of it. It's like I never did it.
Yeah, we're back where we started.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure next week, this time, it's gonna feel like I never did it.
Well, probably, yeah.
I'm gonna have to like do it a few times, right? So it becomes like muscle memory.
Yes, I think for us, the next steps will be, now you created one thing, I think we'll create some more advanced infrastructure where they have more of a life cycle and more dependency on each other. So it actually makes sense to make changes to it, right?
Right. Yeah. There's going to be something in between the apply and the destroy, right? We got to do a little bit more in the middle.
Yeah, we're going to have a little life cycle thing. And I'm guessing we're going to add some GitHub and version control in there as well. So cool. You'll actually be able to version your changes, see what you did, maybe go back if we did something that was bad, which always happens, so that's good to do. Before we leave, we installed the FuzzyFinder. We, of course, have to try that out.
Okay.
So in your terminal, right, hit Control-R. It doesn't work yet. Hold on. It's always the most disappointing when it's like, yeah, it's not supposed to do that.
Yeah, what is this fuzzy search?
Okay, so I think we forgot a command.
Oh no.
So you installed FuzzyFinder, but I think you need to run that.
With the $?
Did I paste the $sign to you?
You sure did.
Sorry. Oh no, yeah. In this case, you want the $sign there.
We do. Okay.
Yes.
Boop.
Because it's basically, oh, you need to Control C. Yeah, now run the command. You were still in the search. So the $sign with the braces, what are they called?
Parentheses.
Are those parentheses? Oh, well, my bad. So the $sign with the parentheses basically creates a subshell. So it's going to execute that first, and then the output of that will be replacing whatever you have there, right? So it'll run brew -- prefix, and whatever the outcome of that is will be put in that place. So just run it. Yep. We want to enable that. Yep. Just say yes. Well, hold on. Yes. And then let's see. Do we need to? It added that. It added that. Finished. Okay. So open up a new tab. New terminal tab. Okay, so the brew command that I just pasted, I'm gonna paste the previous one as well in case you were missing that. Actually, I should probably start with that one. So we're using that shell, and then we are installing there we go. So we're using that to do the search. All right, so if you type Control-R now in the terminal, let's hope it works.
Let's see. Moment of truth.
Yeah.
Hey, something happened. Look at that.
Okay, so as you can see, it has all your previous commands. Right?
Wow, cool.
So
yeah.
with the arrow keys, you can go up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if you type Docker, for instance,
I go back down and type Docker.
No, you don't have to go down. You can just while scrolling.
Oh, look at that!
It filters it.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And if you do space PS, for instance, right, it keeps filtering it, and then you can use the arrow keys to pick the exact one you want.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very useful if it's like, oh, I need to run that command again. I don't remember what it was, but it was something with Terraform, right? So Control-R, Terra, and then it gives you everything.
Yep.
So to get out of this, it's just Control-C. Right? So let's try Control-R, Terra. Okay. And let's do Terraform plan, right? So go up.
Oh.
Yep, just up and then hit return. And then, so it then puts it on your prompt, and you still have to hit the command again to actually run it. But that's a nice way to quickly run commands you've run before. So we're going to use that a lot because there's so many commands that you have to do over and over.
Right, so rather than typing them out.
Yes, so tab completion by hitting tab for everything is what we want to do, right? Terra tab, because we don't want to type Terraform every time. And then this for getting previous longer commands.
So if we, okay. Can I do that here? Like Terra
I don't know.
tab? No, it doesn't work.
No, because then it doesn't know what to complete it with, probably. But on the normal terminal, if you remove some of this text and hit tab, it'll work. So that's nice. If it has multiple things that are in there, it'll list them for you, which is also nice, right? If you have multiple directories and you hit tab, it'll give you a list of them and you can tab through them.
And you select which one you want?
Yep, just by tap, tap, tab or shift tab to go backwards.
Okay.
So I think with that, that's a pretty nice place to end it for today. Like we have everything set up. So next time it's like immediately we can start creating things. So I think that's cool.
What are we going to create next time?
I think we'll actually start working on a cloud provider. I think you're ready to create some actual infrastructure.
All right.
So maybe we'll create a VM on Google Cloud. and then maybe spin up a container on top of that machine or something.
Okay.
I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
All right. So.
All right.
See you next week around the same time.
Bright and early.
Yes.
Yeah, well, this was fun. Thank you, Erik.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Thanks for the good questions. If you still have questions, just post them in the chat. I'll linger a bit. The above GitHub link is for what Alexandra just did, the Control R, where you can search through your command history. So that's very useful when you're writing all these long commands with all these parameters and you don't want to type that out every time. With Control R, you can search back and then run one you did previously, and then edit them as you want to. All right. So yeah, keep the questions going. I'll answer them in chat. Thanks again, Alexandra and everybody. Hope to see you next week.
Yeah, thanks, Erik. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye.